Hi, welcome to episode 21 of the Gentle Knitter podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario, where I live with my husband Mark and our very sweet greyhound Marcel. Today is February 4th, it's a Sunday afternoon, and I can't believe we're already in the second month of 2018. It's been quite a while since I've talked to you, a couple of months, but I've just been very busy, lots of stuff going on in the behind the scenes. I visited my parents. I've been really busy at work. We just opened a new exhibition, so I've been quite busy working on that. For those of you who don't know, I work at the Canadian Museum of Nature here in Ottawa. It's a natural history museum, and I help to develop all the content that goes into exhibitions. So I will write the label, text, I help curate the objects, decide what objects are going to go in an exhibition, I help develop the interactives in a show, that kind of thing, and then I also end up doing a lot of the media interviews and things like that once the show opens. So it's been quite busy. I've just been busy doing a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's a really beautiful show. It's a live butterfly show, and so we have this beautiful space in the museum, a solarium that has been completely filled with beautiful tropical plants, and we have about 200 to 300 individual butterflies living in this space. So if you come to the show, you get to walk amongst the butterflies, and it is really magical. It's quite lovely. And the show was a lot of fun to develop. We did a lot of different things. We obviously have text panels that basically explain, the life cycle of a butterfly and what are the different body parts, how they help to pollinate plants, how to attract them to your garden, that kind of thing. We did a really fun little animation that explains the different steps in the metamorphosis, and I actually ended up doing the voiceover for the animation. So I did that, and then we also have an activity in the exhibit where visitors can create a butterfly in origami. So they can learn how to make, how to fold an origami butterfly. So my colleague and I spent quite a long time filming me trying to, well, not trying, but folding, showing how to fold the origami paper into a butterfly. And oh my gosh, we must have done hundreds of takes just to kind of get the right speed and the right camera angle and all that. It's a quite a simple origami butterfly, but it's not simple to do a tutorial on how to do that. So anyway, maybe I'll include a link down below of that video. I know that work we've posted it on YouTube. So anyway, you can have a look at that. But if you are in the Ottawa area, the show is on until April 4th, so I highly recommend you come and visit. It's actually a perfect escape from the cold weather, because it's a warm and kind of tropical solarium environment. So anyway, I've been quite busy, but I've also been able to do quite a bit of knitting and some spinning, so I have a lot to catch up with you. And anyway, I'm so happy to be back, and I hope that you are doing well. So I wanted to mention that I have several giveaways that I have organized. These are things that I've received from different makers and companies. I've got some really beautiful things to give away that I will show off today, but I will do that at the end of the episode, just in case if for any reason you're not that interested in giveaways. That's fine. I will, like I said, I will talk about them at the end of the episode. So we'll dive right in. And of course, I might as well address the elephant in the room. I am wearing a finished object, something that I actually finished right before Christmas. It is the Branches and Buds pullover by Carrie Bostic Hogue, and it is from the first issue of Making Magazine. And it is just a very simple pullover with a yoke color work. The pattern does call for, you can add little buds. So these are obviously the branches, and then you can embroider little colored dots all over to create the buds. And I'm still on the fence. I really love the way it looks right now. I really find the buds quite charming, and I've seen a lot of beautiful finished projects with the buds, and I quite like it. But I don't know, at the same time, I just like how sort of simple it is. And one of the things that I am sort of focusing on this year is maybe making a lot more simple garments. I know I already, some of you may think, well, you do knit fairly simple kind of plain things already, but it's just that's what I get the most wear out of, is very kind of simple, streamlined garments. And so anyway, I'm living with it like this for now. Tell me what you think. I do find the buds quite charming, and I have lots of different colored yarn in my stash. So I could add them, but for now I'm living with it this way. I did make a few mods. So the sleeves, I ended up doing 3/4 sleeves, mainly because I just like 3/4 sleeves. I find that when I have long sleeves, I'm always pushing them or rolling them up. And with a pullover, I just like that silhouette too, of having the shorter sleeves. To me, it kind of ends up looking a little more feminine. And then the hem of it, I ended up doing so that the top neckline has a very short ribbing and then a little bit of garter, and I really like the way that looked, so I did that for the sleeves. And I also did it for the hem, and I don't know if you'll be able to see. Yeah, so I did a relatively long body. Sorry, that was close up. I did a relatively long body just because, again, it's what I like. I knit the size, I'm not sure. I did what I always do, which is do kind of a smaller top and then a bigger bottom, and just worked. There's no shaping, I believe, to the actual pattern, but I ended up doing just shaping out so that I would have, an A-line shape to the sweater. So I love it. It's very comfortable. The yarn I used is some Estelle Andean DK, and wow, I have nothing but good things to say about this yarn. It is quite soft. It's not like merino soft, but it doesn't at all have a prickle factor. It's beautifully heathered. The color I chose is kind of like, it's one of those brownish grays. And then this is just the natural color. But that yarn is, it's just a really lovely yarn to work with. It's got a lot of bounce, but it's light. It's very inexpensive. It's really affordable. You get a ton in a hank. So anyway, I have nothing but good things to say about it. It's not pilled. I really, really love the way it's turned out. So, I don't know, I think I might just keep it in its kind of simple version. The pattern, did I mention already? Carrie Bostic Hogue from Making Magazine. I think I said that already. But anyway, I'm really very pleased with it. I don't have a lot of pullovers, so it's kind of a nice piece to wear over like a sleeveless dress or a skirt or just, jeans. It's quite easy to wear. So the other thing I knit was a pair of mittens. I realized that I have not a ton of pairs of mittens. I have some really pretty blue and white Farrell ones that I've shown on the podcast before that are starting to need to be mended because there's holes now in the thumbs, and then I have a couple more pairs, but really what I was missing was like a really plain kind of more utilitarian pair. So I ended up making these, and I just invented the pattern. It's not, I didn't follow a pattern. I basically just cast on something like 46 stitches perhaps, knit a cuff, and then just started to stripe the yarn for the hand. I didn't do shaping. I didn't do like a thumb increase. I basically just knit, something that felt like that was really comfortable for the whole width of my hand. And the thumb was afterthought thumb. So I basically just knit a tube and then did striping, and at the top just did a rounded decrease the way you would for a hat, let's say. And then I snipped one of the stitches where I wanted the thumb to be, did a little opening, and then picked up stitches, just knit the thumb. And so really these were about as simple as you can get in terms of a mitten. The yarn I used is Blue Sky Fibers Techno, which is a beautiful yarn. I have quite a bit of it in my stash because it's a yarn that I used to use for when I did, I used to have like a little Etsy shop where I sold things that I hand knit, and so I bought a bunch on wholesale. I had a wholesale account with them, and so I have a lot left over, and it's really, really pretty yarn. It's a, I don't know what they call it, if it's like a tube chain construction. So the way it's made is that there is, they make a kind of like an I-cord out of silk, a very fine silk thread, and then they blow alpaca fibers into the tube, and the alpaca fibers poke out of the silk tube. So it's a silk and alpaca blend, and it is light as a feather. It is the lightest, warmest, most beautiful yarn. You can see how fuzzy it is. It's fuzzy, but at the same time, it's not, it has really nice stitch definition. And it is so warm. These are incredibly warm. They're really, really lovely. So anyway, I really like them. I think they're just very, very plain and classic, but they've become a favorite. I wear them all the time, especially on really, really cold days. So there's that I finished. I feel a little out of practice with this. I feel like I'm hesitating and saying a lot, so you'll have to forgive me, but I am glad to be back. So next I would like to tell you about some spinning I've done. The first one is from fiber that I bought when I was in Rhinebeck, actually when it was at the Needles Up event that was happening the day before Rhinebeck on the Friday. So I had talked about these two bats that I bought by the Classy Squid Fiber Company. The mix is called Magnolia, and it was a mix of kid mohair, mulberry silk, flax, and cotton neps. And so I spun it up, and actually this is, believe it or not, the two bats created this kind of smallish skein, but I think um, I ended up with singles that were fairly dense, probably denser than they should have been, and then I applied it. So I ended up with a fairly, I mean, it's not chunky, but probably I would say like maybe like an Aran weight yarn. And so it's fairly heavy. And I don't know how I feel about it. I think it's really cool looking. Uh, it's borderline, what do you call it? Novelty yarn looking to me. I don't know. I think it would make a really neat hat. The cotton neps really kind of poke out here and there and create a really fun texture. And then the mohair, some of the black fibers are kind of poking out. Maybe holding it still will help. I don't know. What do you think? Like I said, I'm on the fence about it. I think it's neat. You know, there was a lot of sweaters in the 80s had this kind of yarn, so I think that's maybe what I'm reacting to. But I think it would probably be maybe different once it's knit up. I don't know. But it was fun to spin. It was a fun kind of different experience, and I am usually not very good at spinning thicker singles, so this was also kind of my attempt at giving the singles a little more heft. And yeah, so anyway, that's the first thing I spun. I spun it on my wheel, which is an Ashford traditional. And I was talking about how it was not working great. The daughters that hold the flyer were a bit loose, but my husband was able to kind of the screws were stripped, so I couldn't just kind of tighten them up with a screwdriver. But he actually ended up putting little slivers of wood and then screwing them back in. So now the flyer is nice and solid, so I'm very happily spinning again on my wheel, and it's working much better. It still doesn't mean that I don't want a new wheel, but it's not in my budget for quite a while. So yay, I'm really happy that he was able to get my wheel going again. The second skein of yarn that I wanted to show you is this beauty, and I love this so much. This is fiber from October House, and the fiber, I forgot to look up the fiber content. I'll put it in the down bar, as I always do, but I believe it was called Pebbles, the colorway, and it's getting a little blown out, but there's kind of some pale pink and some beige and some blue. It's kind of a beautiful gray, of course, but I'm gonna keep it as singles because it has, even though it's kind of kinking a little bit on itself, it doesn't, it's not really doing it a lot. It's still got it's fairly relaxed for a single, and I just really like the look of it, so I think I'm going to keep it as a single. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I just thought it was really pretty. I have a lot of single like skeins in my stash that would go really well with this, so maybe like a shawl project or something like that. But anyway, so that I'm very happy. It's very soft, and I am dying to buy more fiber from her. She really has beautiful, beautiful blends and gorgeous muted colors. That's her specialty. So I'm very happy with that. Let's see what else. So I've continued working on my Cozy Memories blanket, or my mini memories blanket. Let's see where I was last time. I was here, so I'd done the first 3 rows. So I've done quite a bit more. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows, and it continues to charm me. I love the colors. Just a mix of soft, beachy, kind of sun-faded colors. So now it's big enough to kind of, I mean, it's it's still pretty much a tea towel, but it's big enough to fold. And there's something about seeing these little squares when they're folded. I don't know what it is, but I find it really charming and squishy. And it's going to be a long time before it is blanket size, but I'm already kind of envisioning this, on my bed or on the sofa, and I think it's going to be quite delightful. So there's that. So I was looking for a shawl that was basically more or less like knitting a sock, a vanilla sock. So something that could be completely mindless, but that had a little bit of interest. And the reason why I wanted something like that is because I bought this yarn when I was at Rhinebeck, which I've talked about, which is this Green Mountain Spinnery, and it's their sock art Lana base, and I believe it's a non-superwash sock yarn, but I had 2 skeins and I really thought it would make a very pretty shawl. But I didn't want something fancy. I wanted something that would just be very classic and kind of airy. And this yarn has almost like almost like a matte finish. It's got that sort of kind of bleached almost look, and I just thought that it would suit a beautiful, simple pattern. So I found a pattern called Triangle, and it is by a designer named Caro, and it's really, really, really simple. It's basically a triangular shawl that has eyelet V's running throughout. And so that is what I'm knitting, and I really like the simplicity of it. It is completely mindless and really, really quite an easy pattern, but I do feel like it has some really, it's just strong visual interest to it that I really enjoy. So it's kind of all bunched up on my needles here, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it's going to be quite beautiful. And I'm using my Leica, my beautiful driftwood needles. I bought an interchangeable set several months ago, and I really enjoy working with them. They're beautifully smooth, and they're not super pointy, so if you need to do something that's a little more involved, like some a bunch of like knit 3 togethers or that kind of thing, they might not be the best needles, but just for this type of thing, they're quite enjoyable. And so anyway, so that's what another thing I've been working on, and it gets a lot of airtime, if you will, if I'm in the car, not driving, of course, or if at work sometimes, not always, but sometimes, depending on who I have a meeting with, I might work on my knitting, and so I'll work on that. And it is living in my Fringe Association bag, and it has a new little decoration. I got this beautiful pin that was a collaboration between Mandarine and Melody Hoffman, and Nastia Slepstova, I believe is her name. I've talked about her before. She does a lot of really sweet pins. I've shown you this one before, but anyway, she is she is an illustrator, and this is a design that Melody, a sweater design that Melody created. So they did a little collaboration, little pin collaboration, and it's very sweet. I also made quite a bit of progress on my gameldags. I believe I talked about that in my last episode. I'm not as far as I would have thought after all of this time, because really when you're working with Aran weight let lopi, it generally goes pretty fast. I for an unexplainable reason, kind of lost steam on this, but I did finish, so both sleeves and the body, and now I'm at the point I've joined it all together, and I'm ready to work the yoke. And I think that's kind of where I lost my mojo a little bit, because I was done all the plain knitting, and now I'm actually at the fun part. But I've always just, whenever I thought of picking it up, either I didn't have the pattern with me, or I mean, I'm keeping all the yarn in like a tote, and I didn't feel like going through all of the yarn to kind of figure out where am I starting. And anyway, I'm not quite sure why. It just seemed like a hurdle I didn't want to undertake, but that's okay. I know that once I pick it up again, it will probably fly, and I will then have this beautiful Lopi cardigan. This is kind of the color scheme I'm going with. There's the natural kind of oatmeal color. This is more of a mustardy yellow that is almost a little bit green. I've got a charcoal, a more kind of a medium gray, and then like almost like a black and a cream. So that's where this is, but I will get back to it and finish it at one point. I'm also using the Licca needles for that one. And then the last thing I just cast on, and this was a complete impulse cast on. I was watching Jacqueline Salem's latest episode. She's Brooklyn Knit Folk. She has a really lovely podcast, and she had just finished the shawl, and I just loved it. I thought it was so beautiful. And so I finally succumbed to the fade mania. It's not the Find Your Fades shawl, it's the What the Fade shawl. And her version was so pretty. It was like all these like super duper pale colors. You end up kind of using 6 different colors that you kind of change and fade throughout. It's a triangular shawl. And hers was so delicate and so pretty, and I thought, I wonder if I have the yarn, if I can go stash diving and find something that would work for me. And the other thing that appealed to me about this shawl was that it has a 2-color brioche section, and I've never done 2-color brioche. I've done lots of regular brioche or 1-color brioche. I've done it in the round, I've done it flat, but never 2 colors. And I thought, I've always wanted to try it, and I thought this would be a good pattern. And it ends up being a really great pattern because, so the pattern is by Andrea Mars. So she's the one who started the whole fade craze with her Find Your Fade shawl. And excuse me, the What the Fade shawl was a mystery knit along. It's not a mystery anymore, but I'm not sure when it came out, but she created all of these videos to go along with the mystery knit along. So there are videos basically showing each step of the knit along. And I found those videos incredibly helpful in terms of kind of getting the gist of how to do the two color brioche and how to do increasing and all that. The videos were wonderful. And it also included the shawl has an I-cord edging that's incorporated into the brioche, and it's really very, very lovely, full of lovely little details like that. So if you're interested in knitting this shawl, there's so many wonderful, like I said, videos that accompany, that come with the purchase of the pattern. So it's a really great pattern if you want to learn how to do two color brioche, because it's quite simple once you get the hang of it. So anyway, this is my beginning. I looked through my stash, and I didn't have 6 like really pale things that could have kept me through going through the pattern the way Jacqueline had. And I didn't want to buy new yarn because I actually am not really. I'm trying to limit my my superwash yarn purchases, just because for me personally, I am sort of a little more interested in going towards more what Sarah from Fiber Trek would call place-based yarns, things that are a little more natural, more rustic. I do think that superwash has its place and has a lot of really wonderful uses, and is also really gorgeous, dyes beautifully, and so I still have quite a lot in my stash. My mini memories blanket is one way I'm using it up, but I also had some other skeins that I felt I had full skeins and they were too beautiful to kind of break up to use in this. And so I kind of had put aside to maybe do a bigger project. So this is kind of one of those projects that I'm going to use this very special yarn for. So anyway, sorry, without further ado, this is part of the brioche section. So I'm using kind of this beautiful gray that is sometimes gray, sometimes slightly purple. This is Wool and Vine, and I believe it's in her Volca base, and the color name is Poe. And then the other yarn that I started with, because I've already started to fade in the next color combo, but the first color, pale color that I used is this yarn here, and it is some hedgehog fibers. I don't know the colorway. It's coming out beige here, but it's actually a little more peachy toned. It's a little warmer than what it's showing up to be. But you guys, squish! Two color brioche is so squishy. It's so fun. I love knitting this. It's so addictive. I started this yesterday and that's all I've knit on. I love it. It's so squishy and light, and yeah, it's really pretty. So anyway, I'm transitioning in the pale kind of peachy color into more of a beige, like a cool sand, pale sand color. And then once I've transitioned into that, I will continue the brioche and probably I'm following the pattern sort of here and there, but not 100%. So in the pattern, she has you transitioning several times into the brioche, and then the rest of the shawl is garter. However, I The next yarns that I'm going to show you that are going in this pattern are so beautiful to me that I actually don't want them to be in the brioche, only because the brioche I think is super cool. I love the texture, I love the effect, but it does break up the yarn a little bit, which is nice, but this other yarn, which I will show you in a moment, is so pretty that I actually want it to be garter, that yarn has to start in the garter section. So I'm going to do just 2 different colors in the brioche, and then I'm going to start the garter sooner than the pattern calls for. So my brioche section will be slightly smaller. I don't know, I'm making it sound super complicated, but it's not. So anyway, I will have this palish section, then more of a sandy section, and then I will start the garter. And the first yarn that will go in the garter section is this incredible skein. It's probably the prettiest skein of yarn that I have in my stash. It's from Viola, and the yarn, so it's a sock yarn, so superwash merino, and the color is Garden Ghost. And I have loved Viola's yarns forever, and I remember pinning, she had put a picture of this yarn, not this specific one, but this colorway years ago. And I remember it was like one of the first things I ever pinned was like 4 or 5 skeins of Garden Ghost, and I just thought it was the most beautiful yarn, and it really is. It's super subtle, and it's got like very delicate pinks, and then kind of like pale yellows and some blue and more blue speckles here. There's also a bit of green here, but really, really delicate. And I just want this to be uninterrupted. I don't want it to just be little lines of this color. I want this to be 100% Garden Ghost. So that'll be kind of like the next thing that will go. So you'll have like a section of this, and then a section of this. Like this will be in the brioche with this as the background. So I'm going to continue the darker brioche color. It'll be only the one color for the whole brioche section. And then, like I said, this, which is Viola Yarns. And then the next yarn is another Viola Yarns, which is this one, slightly darker. I lost the tag on this one, so I'm not quite sure what the color name is. But again, super subtle, super pretty gray with a bit of pink, a bit of like warm tones, kind of a beige. So it'd be that, and then that. It's got kind of a purpley cast. And then the last skein is also Viola, and it is the color named Moon Rock. And this one is more uniform, but it's again a purpley gray, very subtle with some blue speckles. So I think this is going to be, let's see if I can do all of this, but I think this is going to be really, really beautiful. Oh, I'm very excited about this. Yeah, so anyway, this is what I have been working on. This here. Oh, I love these colors. Yeah, really, really, really beautiful and delicate. So, I don't know, it's not impossible that next time I record, which will not be in a couple of months, I promise you that, we'll definitely be recording more regularly now that my life has settled down a little bit. But, you know, who knows? I might have this finished the next time I record. Those are all the things I'm working on. I've got like socks and things that I showed last time, but I haven't done any progress on those. They're just plain anyways. So I will move on to the giveaways. So stick around if you're interested in hearing about those. So, giveaways. I have received so many beautiful things, and some of it I've had for quite a while. So, for those who've donated prizes to the podcast, I apologize for taking so long, but hopefully, by me talking about them several times, it gives you a little more exposure. And yeah, thank you to everybody who has made contributions to the podcast. What I'm going to do is I have, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 different giveaways, and I'm going to open one thread, and I'm going to just call it Giveaway Extravaganza and ask you to post. I will have a skill testing question, not really, I'll just have a prompt and get you to comment in that thread, and then I will draw 5 winners from that one thread. So let me tell you a little bit about the beautiful things that I received. First of all, I showed this yarn a couple of times, but I got a beautiful amount of brushwork from Blacker Yarns. Blacker Yarns is a beautiful yarn company in the UK, and they have some incredibly special blends of yarns. And I've gotten a chance to try out a few different of their yarns, and I have to say I love all of them, all the ones that I've tried. So they sent me 6 skeins of their brushwork, which was a special edition yarn for their anniversary. I don't even know if it's still available. If it isn't, this is going to really be a very special prize. But I've got 3 skeins of the purple and 3 skeins of this beautiful blue. The purple is called Smudge. The color is called Smudge. And the blue, this one doesn't have the color label, but the blue is called Velatura. So you will get 6 skeins of this very, very special yarn. And I will send that out to you. And I received from Claire from the Woolly Stitches, the Woolly Thistle, sent me some yarn to give away, which I will show you in a minute, but she had included a few of her tote bags. So I will send, the winner of this prize will get 6 skeins of the brushwork and will get a Woolly Thistle tote bag, which is kind of, it kind of works because I know that Claire carries a lot of Blacker yarns. So if for whatever reason you can't order it directly from Blacker, you can order yarn from the Woolly Thistle. And she is in the States. I believe she's in, is it Maine? I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll put it in the down bar. But anyway, this, I think, would make a gorgeous color work top or a shawl, a really big, beautiful color work shawl, or whatever suits your fancy. But anyway, I would have to say thank you so much to Blacker for sending me such a generous giveaway. I was really wowed by what you sent me, and it is really beautiful yarn. I got a couple of little skeins to play myself, and it's really, really lovely. It's woolen spun, and it says 80% pure new wool and 20% alpaca. I know that some of the wool that is in here is sort of a very limited clip that they had at Blacker that they included, and it's very soft, very fluffy. It's woolen spun. So anyway, very beautiful giveaway. Thank you again, Katie, who works for Blacker, Katie Green, who works for Blacker, and sent me this gorgeous yarn to give away. The next prize, the next giveaway is, speaking of the woolly thistle, I got 2 beautiful skeins of this gorgeous finish wool that's actually it's all the rage right now, the tuku wool. And one of the colors is called Ray, and the other one is called Rura. So you've got this beautiful dark brown, which has kind of a grayish, kind of gray undertones, and then this gorgeous, kind of like a cafe au lait color. Super woolly. I think this would make the most beautiful kind of Scandinavian colorwork mittens. So 2 skeins of that. And then, like I mentioned, you will also get a woolly thistle tote bag. And I received quite a while ago these beautiful needle cases by a lovely woman called Soyun, and her Etsy shop is called Atelier de Soyun. And she makes these gorgeous needle cases. Basically, you've got different pockets here for if you have an interchangeable set, you could put the needle part here, you could put the cables in here. There's a little pocket for notions, and then more slots here for needles. You could put your little stitch markers on this little tab, or on this little ring here. I've got one that she kindly gave me, and I use it all the time. It's really great, especially when you're traveling, because I find that the cases that you get with interchangeable needle sets are often, they're big and they're not always like super attractive, but this is absolutely beautiful. The fabric is a gorgeous kind of linen-y herringbone, and then the gorgeous little button here, natural button. So thank you, Soyun, for that gorgeous gift. And then I also received several shawl pins from Francine, who's local to me. Hi, Francine. She's a really lovely knitter and maker, and she makes beautiful shawl pins. And so she included several. I'll show you some of the other designs, but her shop is called Fancy That, and I can show you, this is her business card. Her Etsy shop is www.tofino14.etsy.com, and she makes all of these beautiful cards with some watercolor and her gorgeous writing. But yeah, it's a really pretty, if you've never seen this style of shawl pin, it's really cool. You've got this little stick here, and then you would kind of put this against, let's say, your shawl. If you wanted to kind of pin it here, you would put this against it, and then you kind of take the stick and pull it through the fabric, so you'd have like fabric here and then the stick pointing out, and it holds your shawl in place. It's really pretty. So there's that one. So that's one of the other prizes. And then I've got some beautiful natural dyed yarn from Oysters and Pearls. I had shown this yarn before, but I also wanted to show she made this really sweet project bag with her logo here, Oysters and Pearls, and this is also naturally dyed. And the yarn is this very lovely skein of kind of a variegated. The way it's variegated though, I think when you knit it up, it will end up being quite stripy because you've got like kind of segments of yarn that are dyed kind of distinct colors. It is, it's called Magnolia, and it's 100% sustainable, traceable, superfine Australian merino. And does it say what it was dyed with? It just says botanically hand dyed. But yeah, it's really, really quite lovely yarn. So I think this would make a beautiful pair of spring socks. And then I also have another one of these pretty shawl pins from Francine. And also a lovely little notions pouch that I received from a viewer. I didn't ask her if I could mention, she doesn't have a shop. She just sent me a beautiful bag for myself and a couple to give away. It's so beautifully made. Look at the stitching there, how fine it is. It's super cute. So anyway, so that'll go in that package. Then I also received some yarn from a new online shop called From Farm to Cables, and it is a Canadian online shop that specializes in beautiful, kind of small, handcrafted, sort of natural yarns. And so she sent me some really, really beautiful yarn, and she said you can keep some and give some away. And honestly, I had a hard time choosing what I was gonna give away. I wanted to keep it all for myself. But I'm going to give away these 2 skeins of German yarn. It's the Rauwerk company, and it says it's 100% merino, sourced and spun in Bavaria. Sheared in 2015, 2016, and spun in 2017. And it is a very beautiful, it's really nice, like merino. It's soft, but it has, the way it's been spun, it's got that rustic feel and look to it. And again, I think this would make something color work. It would be beautiful in this, especially if you like kind of that more natural rustic look. So 2 skeins of that. And then I'll show you the yarn that I decided to keep for myself. That's also from this shop. It's a Hey Mama Wolf yarns, and I got 2 skeins of that. It is, again, naturally dyed yarn. This is also from Germany, and it's 100% organic wool, merino land race, and black face sheep. And this one's dyed with weld and indigo, and it's this really pretty green color, coming out more blue. It's definitely green. And then this lovely skein also coming out really blue, but it's more of a teal color, and it is dyed with indigo and oak galls. So not sure what I'm going to make. Maybe some mittens. I think it would make really warm and durable mittens. It's a nice, very rustic yarn. Really, really lovely. So thank you so much. Please check out the Farm to Cables shop. It's beautiful. They have really, really neat, hard to find yarns like Hey Mama Wolf. So I would definitely check them out. Then another very pretty pin by Francine. This one is so sweet. It's kind of like a safety pin, and it's got a little nest here. So little kind of like robin's eggs in a little copper nest. So super pretty. And then another lovely little project bag with kind of that patchwork look. So there's that. And then the last one is really special. I received this beautiful unexpected package from a woman in South Africa, and her company name is Anitak, and she created this beautiful project bag, and she told me that the flowers on this fabric are actually from South Africa. So it's beautifully made. It's got a little wooden bead as a zipper pull, and the fabric is kind of that beautiful linen-y fabric, and on the other side it's like almost like old-fashioned French writing with a bee, which I love. So you've got this gorgeous bag, this big, very generous project bag. Another pin from Francine. This one's very sweet. And then this very luxurious skein of yarn by the Fiber Company. And this is their Meadow, which is a blend of baby llama, silk, linen, and merino. And this is really special yarn. It's very, very soft. It's a lace weight. It's really fine. And I love the fact that it's got kind of an unexpected blend, you know, especially like the linen. It adds these little, oops, sorry, not doing very well on the camera there, little kind of blips of the linen fibers that are sticking out, but it's really soft. It's not rough at all. And this color is called Bed Straw, although it's definitely more of a cool gray to me. But I just thought they looked really nice together with the bag. So, lots of goodies. And like I said, I will be opening up a thread. By the time you see this, actually, the thread will be already up. And there will be a little prompt there. And I will keep it open until maybe on my next podcast should I draw it at the next podcast? Depending on how quickly I record my next episode. But let's say I'll probably draw in about a month, so towards the end of February. So that is it for me. It's been a lot to catch up on, but I'm super happy to be back with you. I really appreciate all of the lovely messages that I had been receiving. I know a few of you were wondering if I was okay and what was going on. Everything's fine, and I'm just really happy to be back, and hopefully we'll be back very soon to chat again and hopefully show you more progress on that beautiful fade shawl. So anyway, hope you're well, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.